and also the dish area. B has arcade and the B main area. This makes it really hard for you to defend everything because you have 4 stars. If you wanted to have a star in position to do everything, you would have all 4 stars placed at every single choke. And now all of a sudden you have nothing for pulls, which is why Astra is really hard on that map, because you have to play super dynamically. Like, you have to be reacting on an instant to be able to drop the stars. And Astra is not meant to be a hyper reflexive agent. It is more to be a, like, I plan ahead and I set myself up that they have to run through my utility. Obviously, a high level player will still be able to reflexively using utility to be able to support, but that's never something that you want to rely on. That is something you must use in the case that you aren't ready for something. So that kind of explains what maps are good for Astra and what maps are bad. So now let's go into the fun stuff, which is the defense side. What should your playstyle be? And we're going to remove the idea where you need to do anything extra besides defending your site and being able to support the enemy side. So with 4 stars, if I'm defending A here, it's 1, 2, and then place your 3rd star toward the other side of the map. This way, if stuff happens toward A, you are ready to defend, and you can pop your smoke, pop your pull, and if you really need a 3rd star, you can place it down to concuss as well if you really need to shut that down or get another smoke up. I am leaving a flex star here. That's why I've only put down 3 stars. The reason being, with this final star, I can decide based on what happens during the round what I want to do. If I want to, like, oh, I want to smoke out mid, the star will be ready. That is why, although I could put all 4 stars down at once, now I have essentially nothing to do. All my utilities down, and if something were to happen, I wouldn't be able to help my teammates, and that's why we keep 1 on ourselves so that we can kind of adapt very naturally. What this does require you to be, though, is very aware of what is going on the opposite side of the map. Usually you can get some level of indication on, like, oh, is it a rush here? And I will say, because this is a beginner's guide, you're probably dealing with a lot of rushes and less of slow play, baiting out utility. That probably doesn't happen very much. Most of the time, if it's a rush, a drone is a good enough tell for you to put down a star that is ready for a pull. So if I heard a drone B, I would immediately put down a 2nd star there and then just smoke it. That way, over at the B site, they would need to run through a smoke. They wouldn't notice that there is a star behind it. Then they run immediately into a pull, and then your teammates can get this kill very easily from that angle. As you're doing this, you'll start realizing that, okay, if I'm doing this, it'll be much easier for your teammates to defend, and it's easy for you to defend. So we kind of went over that in the defense side, you want a smoke and a pull. So now let's talk about how to play off of it. Smoke is to isolate the fact that you can't see the star from the inside. From here, I have no idea. Obviously, I'm Astra. I could see this icon, but I would have no idea that what I am running onto is a pole, which could essentially make it very easy for me to die. Where you want to position your pole is usually in the sight lines as many angles as possible, because it will slow people down or get them stuck. If you have a pole, let's say, like, imagine if I had a really deep smoke. Sometimes doing this, right, will make them just stuck here. And let's think about the angles I am susceptible to. 1, 2, 3. I'm not saying that this is a few angles, but I'm not saying this isn't many angles, but this is less than had you pulled out here, where now you have to, there's a 180 degrees worth of things that they are stuck in, and therefore their likeliness of dying and also likeliness of not knowing where to look, because from here I just focus on what is on my screen. From here I have to swing left and right to be able to really defend myself. So obviously you can see that if I pull out here, any position you play will likely just be stronger because they have more angles they need to be focused on. So yes, so now with that being said, it's smoke, pull. How do you time it? Usually you'll play off of information, and that is the biggest key part of Astra, of knowing when to pull. For like Ascent, I'll like commonly do this. I'm bouncing my head so I can see when they run out. And then when they run out, then I'll pull, and then I can wait for it to pop if I want, or I could just swing before it pops. Either way, it's your choice. Sometimes it's easier to swing before to make sure they don't get out. While they're bouncing away, you get a free kill, or sometimes it's easier to swing after because the fragile effect. But that is a case-by-case scenario. It's also depending on what you want to do. So that is kind of the playstyle you want to go for. If there is a map with one-ways that are very strong, definitely do them. In this case, Ascent, like this one is almost always worth doing. Actually, I would do the other side. You and your teammate can just shut down any possibility of going A, or require the attackers to need to spend a lot of time and utility and a lot of people to come and clear this. And you can always just decide, I don't want to fight for this anymore. Fall back, drop a smoke real quick, and then get out into safety, and then now they're back at square one, except they use their drone, they use their prowler, Roomba, nade, whatever, trying to push you off. Now they can't use it for sight. You see how that kind of will snowball into benefiting you for holding the sight. Can you show the one way? Okay, normally with every other smoke besides Astra, I would recommend this one on this wall because it's smaller, but Astra smokes are actually huge. So like throwing it on this one actually does it better, because when they run through, they don't see much. And you can even, sometimes this is better because like, I know you're probably thinking, oh, what about if someone's here? Well, you only have to focus on this, right? If I'm walking, I only have to focus on this. And sometimes I can get deeper in rather than if I do this, right? I can't clear as deep. Because now I'm like, okay, they could be up here, but they could also be down here. Now I don't know what to really clear, and now I'm making like essentially a one-way for myself. Anyone that's deep can't really can see me before I can see them. So that's why I don't like it. And they could also just be hiding up there in the smoke, and you wouldn't be able to do anything about it. So sometimes throwing it on the other side actually works out a little bit better. Another thing is putting sight smokes that you can play around. So this one is a very common one. Essentially what you want to think about is you might be feeling rushed, and a lot of times you feel really pressured. Like if the enemy jet is pretty good, they'll like dashing onto sight, and they'll dash past your pole. So having a sight smoke that you could just like walk into and just kind of chill, because while you're in here, the likeliness of your dying is much less because they would have to spam through the smoke. And also anyone who walks into the smoke gives you you have a solid chance of killing them, because whoever's in the smoke always has the advantage over who is pushing into the smoke. So that gives you some time, buys you some time. Usually like some person will get curious and like, oh, I'll check the smoke, get you a free kill, guarantee you're one for holding the site at least, and sometimes you'll even snowball into getting multiple. Now, when do you pull back your stars? When do you decide that, hey, I don't need it anymore? Because obviously if you use 1 star, then you realize that we're back into the situation where if you place down all 4 stars, you have nothing to do. If you use your 1 flex star and you have 3 stars placed, there's nothing for you to do as well. That is when you can start to judge how the round is going. So in this case, if I feel like, oh, there is no one A, or, you know, maybe my jet is pushed up, or something is going on, or a dart comes here, and then you look and you realize like, hey, I think A is clear. That is when you can start lessening the load on one of the defensive sites and start being able to pull it back for a flex. So in this case, imagine that I had these 3 and I used 1 for mid. So now let's say I have 1 star left. Then in that case, after maybe my jet clears A, or like, you know, is peeking A and there's nobody here, then I'll just pull back 1 star early, because I'm starting to feel like it's not A, or I'll do it toward B if that's what happened toward B. Maybe someone pushed through, or a dart came through and nobody broke it. These sort of information that you naturally get when you just look at the mini map and you notice, hey, you know, there's nobody here. Then you can start shifting away your utility from there, because there's no point in stacking a site when the enemy is not going to go there. If you've reached this far into the video, then you've reached the secret halfway point. Welcome to the secret society where only cool people live. I appreciate you watching this far. If you want to see more from me, I stream live on Twitch and YouTube, so make sure you subscribe or follow to see more of me. But without further ado, let's continue the video. Let's talk about the offensive side. So on the offense, all you really need to do is, usually, since you have 4 stars, and that's usually in excess of hitting a site, you could technically slam 4 stars on an execute on A, just smoke, pull, stun, right? And then you can do that. And then that would hit like nearly everything on site. That was the dice concuss, and then this would be like a pretty solid execute. But usually it's better to work some level of teamwork cohesion, like by taking the map. So I'll smoke bottom mid so that, you know, we can walk up cat, or we can just like, you can full rush if you want to. I think that's a more simple strat, especially for beginners, when you don't have to think about too much. I would think about when you're getting on site, make sure you have probably 2 smokes up, and then a 3rd star for a pull. I would say is optional, but highly recommended. Usually the star will have, like, you'll be able to recognize where are the places you're usually defenders are at. So on terms of A site ascent, Jenny is very popular and Dice is very popular. So that's why I have a pull for here, because I think these are the ones that we need to worry about the most. And having something like that here makes the site take very easily. You probably won't even lose a teammate on the execute on site, and that is what is important. So you're really deciding just between rushing or playing slow and dropping smokes toward the mid to take space. Now, why are you taking space toward mid as Astra, like I'm smoking bottom mid, is so that I can gain access to other parts of the map. In this case, with this smoke, I can gain access to cat now. Without needing to worry about getting shot from here or getting opt from mid, I could just get up here, and now I can easily fight this with my teammates without needing to worry about getting picked off. Now, if you want to do something for B, you can smoke a little bit deeper over there. And that way you can take all of this space without needing to worry about the same issue of getting picked. So those are kind of the two trains of thoughts. Do I want to rush, or does my team want to rush, or do we want to play slow? And usually I will say, if you're just significantly better than the team, rushing usually just works better. It's more simple. But in the case that rushing doesn't work, you usually go to the second one, which is playing slow, so that you can get access to more strats. Like I can do an A split here, I can do a B split. Now you have, instead of just B rush, A rush, which is 2 strats, you've doubled it to 4, and then you can also, like, high level ish, you know, you could start splitting, faking. You make a lot of noise cat, then you go mid, or you make a lot of noise market, then you go cat. See how like this, now you have 6 strats, and then you keep adding it, and then it gets more complicated. But like, we're gonna stick with these 4, as these are likely the only 4 you need. So let's talk about how you should be positioning on the attack side and placing your stars, because I think people don't know when they should be placing their stars. Number 1 is, don't place your stars too early in the beginning. Wait until your teammates get a little bit closer, or at least kind of ready. Remember that I did say that there's a delay between placing your stars and being able to activate it. Putting down the stars as your teammates is coming out is bad. If I were to think, oh, they're rushing and they're full running it, by getting to this point, that's when I want to place my star, because imagine stars placed around here, stars ready to be used, then it's popped, and then they're running through sight, it's smoked. So that's how you kind of want to mentally image when you should be placing your stars. So usually, because when you're in astral form, you can see your teammates moving. So what you'll want to do is notice by their distance, place. If you want to know in terms of how smokes work, the smoke is actually a little bit bigger than the circle, but I always use the circle as a good relative judgment. Like, it is a pretty close and accurate judgment to how the size of the smoke is. It is not exact, but I think for the most part, as long as you're like, as exactness isn't like too big of a deal, it's only going to be like maybe a couple like extra pixels wider than you actually expect, but like obviously that works well enough. Don't worry too much about it. As use the circle as a guideline, understand that it's not perfect. So now let's talk about how to play off your teammates. So the most natural one is just a Astra pull, and that's the best combo utility, by the way. Astra pull and a raise nade, similar to C's fade. C's raise nade, or C's nade, in terms of fade and raise. Astra can kind of do the same thing. It is a little bit harder though, because it is like you can still get out of it. So if I place it here, it's pulling it, I can still bounce out of it. They would have to jump, but I can still bounce out of it. That's why it's a little bit harder to do, but you can definitely get it to work. Where I would target is places with orbs. That is a very easy way to find out where the heck someone's gonna be. And then you can also do it to force them into like bad corners, right? So in the case you have a one-way here, they will jump through and then they'll like fight. And then they realize they're not here. If you had a star placed here, it makes it very easy for your race to just bounce a nade and get it into this, because it takes much longer for them to bounce out. And that's what's important. And once the fragile effect kicks in, they'll pretty much insta die. The better combo is usually with Killjoys, because Killjoys mollies are instantaneous. The damage applied is instantaneous. So meaning that the amount, like in comparison to Raze here, where the nade only deals damage the moment it explodes, that entire beeping time, it's doing nothing. With a Killjoy molly, the moment you pull and the swarm is activated, they're taking the damage, and the fact that they have to slowly bounce out of it makes them, well, take more damage, because they're slowly getting out of it. And then on top of that, if they're fragile from it, that molly also ticks double damage, so it does a lot of damage. It also helps, like, if you have a friendly Killjoy, you look for where their setup is. So we'll use Ascent, because Ascent's a very common Killjoy map. They'll a lot of times have swarms here and here, so that way when you run through the door and close it, you'll take a lot of damage as you're trying to jump out of the mollies. Astra can literally just put a pull here, and that way when they run through and then they get pulled, then they'll take a lot of damage. In terms of B, it's usually a long lane, but pretty much every map with a Killjoy, you're kind of able to do that. Okay, let's answer the big question. Is, if you've seen me play Astra, you probably know that I place my stuff like very fast, and then like as I'm running, I'll literally be jumping and like using a lot of tricks as Astra to like be more efficient. Is that necessary to play Astra well? No, it is not. Astra's utility is used in a very like big brain way, where you're predicting what the enemy is going to do. These stars are indestructible. There's nothing they can do to ever move the star or remove the star unless you remove it yourself. Therefore, they have to deal with your utility, and that means the smarter you are, the more forethought you have the more likely chance you are able to set yourself up to take fights that you want to take. Ideally, every single time that you play Astra on the defense, for example, they have to run through a smoke and a pull to be able to get onto site. You see how based on that specifically, you are at a almost always an advantage on the defense. Now, it's bad when you think of it reflexively. If you miss your timing and your stars aren't there ahead of time, then, you know, they run onto site for free. And Astra has no abilities to help her then in that case. All her abilities are required of a preset star. Don't focus on these like tricks, I'll say, until you have the basics down. These are like, yes, it'll make you feel good. You'll get that one kill, and yes, like, it's enjoyable, and it is part of the learning process to enjoy the cool things about every agent. But if you're thinking that this is the reason why you're not playing Astra at a high level, then it's usually not. These recall tricks, these momentum tricks don't solve the core problem, which is generally that you're not pre-planning ahead of time. Really, a lot of the times about Astra is just thinking, what are they doing? What can I do to be able to help with my team or help with the site hold or read what they're doing so that they have to run through it? That is all. And it's pretty simple. When you break it down to that, it's like, I predict where you go, I place my stuff here, you run through it, I get easy kills. That's almost always what it is. Everything else is kind of the cherry on top. And if you want to learn about that, then you can check out my complete guide where I kind of explain it. I might even make a like separate guide above the complete guide where I go over the very nuanced things, like the top, like the last 1% that you need to know to master Astra completely. How do you play Valorant, or how do you play Astra if your teammates aren't calming? Because this is a huge thing that I hear from everyone who tries to play Astra. Like, my team isn't calming, I can't play well. Your eyes have to be glued on the minimap. Like, you just have to kind of know. And what you want to do is read more into how the other people are playing. Like, let's explain some very low level monkey brain stuff, which is, if they are not here, they are probably there. Ready? That's a big brain, right? They are not here at A, they are probably there at B. Probably. So what you can do is, my teammates at B aren't calming. Guess what I will do? I'll toss the smoke here and I'll aggressively fight for it. No utility being used, no drone being used, they're not fighting, they're not making any noise. Guess what, in my mind, I'm like, I am less likely to need to worry about this. I'm literally going to drop 2 stars and I'm going to just like chill here. Then now I've realized, because I got that information early that nobody's here, then I'll fall back onto site and I could just sit here and just like literally just play something like passive, like a really passive angle like this, and just like spot, oh, they're A main, okay, then I'll smoke, right? Or they're not, then whatever. But like that, this idea that I'm literally just here looking at the minimap and looking at my screen. Is someone here? If someone's peeking, okay, then I'll do stuff toward my site. But for the most part, I'm more ready for their side of the map because I've gotten that information. So sometimes doing something on your site in an effort tells you what is going to happen to your teammate's site, and then you don't need their comms because you don't need to worry about your site. This is the reason why people are like, oh, I need comms, is because you're sitting backside hiding, not getting any information toward A main at all, or getting any information on your side of the map. You've essentially given it up, and now you're playing as if you're expecting like the Avengers to assemble and dash through your non-existent smoke and take the site, and you're like playing it like cowardly in the back. Like, play with some confidence, understand, find the information you need, and then that way you know where to be looking on your minimap, and that way you know that like, oh, I don't need to worry about certain things. This is not gonna happen. I don't need a comm. I literally smoke. I see, you can see when your teammates see enemies. I smoke, okay? I saw 3 there in this near the smoke. I'm just gonna pull off the bat just because I don't need to, like, I don't need a genius to tell me that they're pushing. I'm like, there's 3 there. Worst case scenario, I pull, it stalls. It's a molly. 3 seconds, they're not gonna push through. Immediately, I'll drop a 2nd star right after the pull, and then I'll concuss again, or re-smoke, or whatever. But you can, your teammates' icon on the radar will tell you if they see anybody. Last thing I want to talk about is Astra Wall. So in terms of Astra Wall on the attack, you usually just want to use it to guarantee a plant. A lot of people on like Ascent will smoke off heaven, or wall off heaven. I like to wall off door because I hate getting spammed through this door. And I feel like anyone that comes out of heaven would have been like stopped with the smoke. So like a smoke and a pull and then a wall for this. That's what I would do. And then that way I come out, I pull that. Anyone in the smoke will get pulled out, which actually gives you a free kill. You can't get spammed through it. You close the door. If you wall out a little bit further to this side, They actually can't even break the door early. They have to wait for the Astra wall to drop to be able to break the door. They could, I guess, knife it, but some people just don't think about it. And then this stalls you. Make sure you don't get spammed through the door as you're running up. It makes it a little bit safer. Besides taking sight, you can always play post plant. On certain maps, it's better on, like, for example, Pearl, because of the distance. On the defense, you're normally thinking about walling off all the farther angles that you don't want to deal with. So on A site, I would literally just wall like this. Just like, I don't want to deal with any of A main, any of door. We just jump down. We'll fight the guy's hell. We'll fight the guy's generator. Then I'll end up trying to get posted up here so that I can just hold for anyone running through the wall to try to stop the plant. And this makes it really easy because the scariest part about coming out of heaven is that you have to worry about A main, but you can literally just jump down without worrying about any of the deep angles, and you'll find that much better. This puts a lot of pressure on the attackers because they have the spike down. They can't hear if the spike is being tapped. Yeah, so they have to assume that it is, and they have to run through a wall where you could be holding. That is kind of what you want to think about. And that wraps up this video. I hope that helped make Astra a little bit easier to play, especially for those of you who are new. If you have any questions for me, feel free to ask me on stream or Twitter or Discord. All of those links will be in the description below. If you're still wanting to see a lot more, check out my YouTube channel. I have a ton of Astra content, but specifically check out the Astra Main's Guide to Astra, as I'm sure you will get everything you need there. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Flow out.